heard a story once, as far as I know it was true, about a boy in the 3rd or 4th grade who was badly burned and put in the hospital. And he was going to be in there for a while. It was a bad burn. And after a couple of weeks in there, in his pain and in his struggles, one day a woman walked into his room and said, "Hello, Adam," his name, "Mrs. Brown, I'm here to teach you while you're in school, while you're in the hospital, so you don't get behind." And he said some things that not supposed to say to a teacher, and because he was kind of despondent and a little angry and stuff, and but she was a seasoned teacher, and it's like, yeah, okay. So she started spending some time with him, and the session lasted about a half an hour. But you noticed that during that session, he became more engaged and a little lighter, and by the end of the half hour or so, he was kind of cheery. So she said, "Well, we're done today now, Adam. But can you tell me, your attitude seems to have changed from the beginning to the end of the session. Can you tell me what happened?" And he said, "Yes, Mrs. Brown, I can. I figured, why would they send a teacher to work on nouns and adverbs to a little boy who was dying?" So he figured out he wasn't dying. And it underlines for me the importance, how critically important it is to have somebody believe in us, to have at least one person who hasn't given up on us. Doesn't that make all the difference in the world? To have at least one person who hasn't given up on us. That's one of the things that's going on in today's gospel. There's Zacchaeus. We've heard the story many times before. He's a rich guy. He's a tax collector, which means that he was a traitor to the Jews so far as they saw it. And he was rich. That means he overcharged them. And he was getting rich and he was making them poor. And Jesus was in town. So this outcast was too short to see, so he climbed up a tree to see Jesus. And one commentator suggested that another reason he was up in that tree was that if he was down in the midst of the crowd who hated him, he might accidentally get beaten up. And so he's up there in that tree kind of looking down. And Jesus looks up to him and calls him by name and said, "Zacchaeus, come down from that tree." The commentators point out that that's one of the few times Jesus calls somebody by name, and how important that was in the Jewish religion. When you knew their name, you knew them. He calls them by name, and he says, "Come on down here." So he's obviously saying, "Zacchaeus, I know who you are, and I still believe in you." So Zacchaeus came down, and so moved by this was he that it changed him. And he responded. He responded by saying, "I give half of what I have to the poor. And if I have extorted anyone, I will repay them fourfold, 4 times over." Now that's quite a change to go on someone. But it's the power of being believed in. And I kind of reflected on how too often we are much better at criticizing people, aren't we? Kind of picking them apart, kind of looking for the worst. Yeah, I need to do that again. You always do that. Where we do that to each other, how much more do we need to do the exact opposite and to start believing in other people? And if we already do, to let them know that. To invest a little bit in them. Because isn't the truth of the matter that no matter what age we are, we can kind of get lost? I don't know where I'm going. I can't figure it out. I'm just kind of lost. I don't get it. I wish God would tell me. And if we ever can recognize those spots in our lives, we need to hear again some of what we heard in that first reading, where it says, "But you, God, have mercy on all, and you overlook people's sin, that they may repent. For you love all things that are, and loathe nothing that you have made." Someone just says, in one way or another, you're not going to amount to much. You're never going to get over what you're dealing with. You're just no good. Wouldn't it be great to hear and to believe? You loathe nothing that you have made, for you love all things that are. You spare all things because they are yours, O Lord, and lover of souls. Anybody not want to hear that? That's what Jesus is saying to Zacchaeus and what he's saying to us. He who knows each one of us by name and would call us down from the tree. Knowing that we're not lost to God, knowing that God still believes in us, knowing that God has not yet, not ever, given up on us. How much power that gives us in our lives to believe in ourselves and not to give up on ourselves. And having seen that, how much power it gives us to do the same for somebody else. Instead of saying those kinds of things, oh, there you go again. They saying, I know you can be better than that. And it just makes a difference. I remember one time when I was studying theology, and it was a little too hard for my little head, and I was kind of depressed and angry that I had learned this stuff anyway, and all that. And I was dragging myself up the steps at the seminary in Washington, D.C., and just one of my formation directors was standing up there, and he looks at me and said, what's the matter? I said, never mind what I said. It's like, kind of said, it's not going well. I just can't make it here. And he looked at me and he said, you can do it. I know you can. And I was not in a really good mood. And I said, what makes you think so? He says, because I've been living here for 2 years now. And I know you. And I know that you got it within you to do this. Just got to work hard. And I went, really? Really? And I'm here today, so it must have worked. Well, what kind of power we have when we believe in somebody else and help them to believe that not only do we believe in them, but God does. So we would do well to believe in the God who believes in us, to share that faith by believing in others and never giving up on them.